Have you ever had that subtle, nagging feeling in your chest that something in your relationship just isn't right, but you can't quite put your finger on what it is? Maybe it starts with a slight shift in her tone, a pause before answering, or those unexplained moments when she's away longer than usual. Perhaps you find yourself staring at the clock, wondering why she isn't home yet, or noticing how her laughter on the phone doesn't sound like it's meant for you anymore. That gnawing sense in your stomach, the one that whispers that something is off, can feel impossible to ignore. And yet, at the same time, you question yourself, am I overthinking? Am I just being insecure? If you've ever been caught in that confusing cycle of doubt and intuition, this video is here to guide you. Together, we'll explore the clearest and most researched signs that your partner may be seeing someone else. These signs are not meant to make you paranoid or suspicious without reason, but rather to empower you with awareness. Because when something feels wrong, there's usually a reason. Based on studies and expert insights, I'll walk you through the subtle clues that often go unnoticed, but which may reveal much more than you expect. So imagine this scenario. You've been in a steady relationship for years. You've built routines together, shared laughter, and perhaps weathered storms side by side. Things seemed solid. At least that's what you believed. Then, almost without warning, small shifts creep into the rhythm of your days. She begins staying late at work more often than before, explaining that deadlines are piling up or that new projects require extra hours. Yet something about her explanations feels rehearsed, as though the words are carefully chosen, not casually shared. Business trips suddenly appear on her calendar. Outings with friends who were never mentioned in the past become more frequent, and before you know it, she's away more than she's home. Now, anyone can get busy. Life is unpredictable, and demanding schedules are part of the modern world. But what's important here is consistency and context. If her absences arrive out of nowhere, accompanied by vague explanations, and if your attempts to engage, like showing up at her office unexpectedly to surprise her, are met with defensiveness instead of delight, then that reaction deserves attention. Why grow uneasy if there's nothing to hide? Why build a wall of excuses if transparency should come naturally? The truth is, when someone starts carving out time for another person, their ability to balance time with you inevitably begins to falter. And you notice it. Plans that were once certain, your Friday night dinners, your Saturday morning routines, your cozy evenings at home, start disappearing. Invitations you extend are declined, plans are canceled at the last minute, and "I'm too busy" becomes a phrase you hear more than you'd like. It's not just about the absence of time together, it's about how her choices show where her energy is going. If she no longer makes space for you, she's almost certainly making space for someone else. And this is only the beginning. Beyond physical absence lies an even deeper indicator: emotional and physical distance. Relationships thrive on closeness. Those unplanned moments of connection, the hugs before leaving for work, the comfort of a shared touch, the conversations that wander late into the night. But when someone begins investing their emotional and physical energy in another relationship, that intimacy with you starts to fade. At first, it might feel subtle. Perhaps she doesn't reach for your hand as often. Perhaps the warmth of her embrace seems less frequent, or her responses feel flat when you try to initiate closeness. Soon you realize that physical affection itself is dwindling. Hugs are shorter, touches are rare, and those intimate moments that used to feel natural now seem absent altogether. Now, it's true that physical intimacy ebbs and flows in long-term relationships. Stress, responsibilities, or even health issues can impact the frequency of closeness. But what sets this situation apart is that the distance is accompanied by emotional withdrawal as well. Conversations become shallow, reduced to surface-level exchanges rather than meaningful dialogues. Where you once discussed dreams, future plans, and even the smallest frustrations of daily life, you now receive curt responses, vague answers, or simply silence. It feels as though a wall has been constructed, a deliberate choice to keep you at arm's length. That wall often reflects guilt. When someone is hiding something, drawing too close to you risks exposure. To avoid slipping up, they step back, avoiding deep talks that might reveal inconsistencies. And so you find yourself locked out, no longer part of her inner world, left wondering who is being invited into that private space of her heart. This is why emotional and physical distance is one of the strongest indicators that something more is happening outside your relationship. Closely tied to that distance is another unmistakable behavior: secrecy around her phone. Think back to how things used to be. Maybe her phone would rest on the table, unlocked, notifications flashing openly without a second thought. But now, it seems to never leave her side. She carries it with her everywhere. Into the bathroom, into the kitchen, even to bed. If she leaves it out, it's always face down, as though to shield you from even a passing glance at her screen. And if you so much as touch it, she reacts with surprising defensiveness, quickly grabbing it back or making excuses. In today's world, the phone is often the central tool for communication, including secret communication. Flirty texts, hidden photos, or conversations that shouldn't be happening are easier to conceal than ever. But concealment itself is a signal. If she laughs at messages without sharing the joke, steps into another room to answer calls, or suddenly adopts tighter privacy settings on her social media, your instincts will tell you something is being hidden. Even social media behavior itself can raise flags. Maybe you've noticed that she blocks you from viewing certain posts or stories, or suddenly gains new followers whose interactions feel more personal than friendly. Maybe you find comments that make you uneasy, jokes that seem intimate, compliments that hint at something more. Alone, these may not be conclusive, but in combination with other changes, they add weight to the growing sense that someone else is in the picture. Another sign that often surprises people is what I like to call the new glow. Have you noticed her energy changing lately, as though she's walking through life with an unexplained happiness? She's smiling more, humming while getting ready, maybe taking extra care in her appearance before going out. And yet, the confusing part is that this joy doesn't seem connected to your relationship. If things between you have felt distant or strained, where is this sudden cheerfulness coming from? Psychologists often note that the thrill of something new, the adrenaline, the secrecy, the excitement, creates a kind of emotional high. It's the rush of discovery, the feeling of being desired by someone fresh and unfamiliar. And that energy is difficult to hide. So when you notice that her lightheartedness and enthusiasm increase even as your own connection decreases, it's worth questioning. Happiness can certainly come from within, but when it arises suddenly, out of context and disconnected from your shared experiences, it may well be reflecting something happening elsewhere. Now, one of the most surprising yet powerful signs comes from something we rarely think about: scent. Smell is one of the strongest triggers of memory and recognition, and our senses are finely tuned to notice when something changes. If she suddenly starts wearing a new perfume that she never mentioned wanting to try, or if you catch a whiff of a fragrance that doesn't belong to her, or to you, it's time to pay attention. The same is true if she comes home and immediately heads for the shower or changes clothes without explanation. It may look like nothing, but those small actions can reveal a lot. Even the natural scent of her skin can shift if she's been physically close to someone else. And while this may feel subtle or even intangible, your intuition often catches it before your mind does. Science has shown that humans are incredibly sensitive to changes in the scents of those we love. If something smells different and there's no clear reason, it might be your instincts pointing you toward a hidden truth. Taken together, these signs, longer absences, emotional withdrawal, phone secrecy, unexplained happiness, and even subtle shifts in scent paint a picture that should not be ignored. None of them, on their own, confirm infidelity. Life is complex and there are always other explanations. But when multiple signs overlap, and especially when they align with your inner sense that something is wrong, it's time to stop dismissing your feelings. This brings us to a crucial point. Awareness should not lead to paranoia, but to reflection. Rather than immediately confronting with accusations, the first step is to observe carefully and consider the bigger picture. Relationships are built on trust, and sometimes a change in behavior is simply a sign of stress, personal struggles, or shifting priorities. But other times, it is exactly what it appears to be. Evidence that her heart and attention are drifting elsewhere. When we think about the warning signs that a relationship is shifting, we often picture dramatic confrontations or unmistakable evidence. But in reality, the most revealing changes are often subtle, woven into the day-to-day fabric of life, and only noticeable when you take a step back and connect the dots. Let's continue our exploration of these signs by looking at behaviors that are less obvious at first glance, yet incredibly powerful once you recognize them for what they are. One of the clearest but often overlooked indicators is how your partner handles social media. In our world today, online platforms are more than just a way to stay in touch. They are the new stage where identities are curated, where connections are formed, and sometimes where secrets are hidden. If you notice that your partner suddenly becomes unusually active online, posting more photos, responding quickly to certain people, or engaging in playful interactions that don't quite add up, it's worth paying attention. Maybe she barely touched her phone before, yet now she seems glued to it, checking notifications in the middle of conversations, smiling at messages without explaining what's so funny, or even staying up late into the night just to stay connected. The shift becomes even more concerning when secrecy enters the picture. Perhaps you find yourself blocked from viewing certain posts or stories, as though entire parts of her online life are being carefully kept out of your sight. Maybe she deletes comments before you can see them, or suddenly alters her privacy settings without explanation. If her digital world begins to feel like a space where you are deliberately excluded, it may not be paranoia. It may be a reflection of a connection she doesn't want you to see. Social media, after all, has become one of the easiest and most common places for modern affairs to take root. Equally telling is the sudden appearance of new expressions or language in her daily speech. Words carry with them the influence of the people we spend time with. Think about it. When you're close to someone, you naturally adopt their phrases, their tone, even their sense of humor. So when your partner begins using sayings or jokes you've never heard before, it can be a sign that someone else is shaping her vocabulary. Perhaps she references an inside joke but doesn't explain it, or she casually drops a phrase that feels foreign in her mouth, as though it belongs to another world. Over time, you may notice that her communication style itself shifts, not just what she says, but how she says it. Affectionate nicknames might disappear, replaced by colder, more distant tones. Where she once spoke with warmth and openness, she now sounds detached or distracted. Language is a mirror of emotional connection, and when that connection is redirected, the reflection you once shared inevitably changes. Then there are the sudden new hobbies or interests that arrive out of nowhere. Imagine this. For years, she had no interest in hiking, but now she's lacing up new boots every weekend. Or perhaps she suddenly takes up yoga, cooking classes or painting, spending hours immersed in activities she never previously mentioned. Of course, people are free to grow, explore, and try new things. It's healthy and natural. But what raises questions is when these new passions seem to appear without context, without discussion, and without any invitation for you to be part of them. You might ask to join her on that hiking trip or suggest cooking a recipe together, only to be met with excuses, evasions, or even irritation. When new hobbies come packaged with exclusion, it's not simply about discovering interests. It's often about aligning with someone else's world. This alignment can be subtle but powerful. Psychologists note that people in new relationships often mirror the interests and activities of the person they are drawn to, as a way of building connection and spending more time together. So while she may frame it as self-discovery, the deeper truth could be that she is discovering someone else and adapting her life to fit theirs. If her schedule suddenly fills with these unexplained commitments, and if her new pursuits seem to replace the time you once shared, it may not just be about hobbies. It may be about a new bond being formed elsewhere. Alongside new hobbies, another major indicator is when she stops sharing personal things with you. Think back to how your relationship used to feel in its most open moments. Maybe she told you everything, from her fears and frustrations to her dreams and silly day-to-day stories. You felt included in her inner world. But now, that openness has evaporated. She no longer volunteers details about her life. Her tone becomes vague when you ask how she's doing, and conversations that once felt natural now feel forced. When emotional sharing disappears, it's often because it has been redirected. Humans crave connection, and if she isn't opening up to you, it's likely she's finding someone else who listens. This emotional silence can be one of the most painful changes because it leaves you feeling shut out, as though you're living beside her, but not truly with her anymore. You may find yourself asking gentle questions only to be brushed off with, "I'm fine," or "nothing's wrong." Yet deep down, you sense that things are very different, and your intuition is right. Emotional withdrawal is rarely random. It is usually the result of a deeper shift in trust, one that points to another confidant in her life. Another area to watch closely is the disappearance of couple-focused plans. Healthy relationships thrive on shared experiences, whether it's as simple as watching a movie together, cooking dinner side by side, or planning weekend outings. These are the moments where memories are built and bonds are strengthened. But if you notice that these shared activities are slowly vanishing, replaced by solo commitments or vague excuses, it's time to ask why. Maybe she used to look forward to your Saturday dates, but now she insists she's busy or prefers to do things alone. Maybe anniversaries, birthdays, or other meaningful milestones pass by with little effort or enthusiasm. It's not just about missing one dinner or skipping a movie night. It's about a pattern, a repeated avoidance of building moments with you. If she seems more excited to spend time with friends, colleagues, or even alone than she is with you, it's an indicator that her priorities are shifting. And when someone no longer invests in creating memories with you, it's often because they are investing in building them with someone else. When you put all these signs together, strange activity on social media, changes in language, unexplained hobbies, emotional withdrawal, and lack of couple plans, you begin to see a clearer picture. None of these alone can prove infidelity, but collectively, they form a consistent narrative. They tell you that the connection you once shared is being redirected, and that your role in her life is slowly being replaced. Now, this is where it becomes especially important to approach the situation with clarity and composure. Awareness does not mean you must immediately confront her with accusations or anger. In fact, doing so may only create defensiveness and shut down any possibility of honest dialogue. Instead, the healthiest response is to observe, reflect, and prepare yourself for a genuine conversation. Relationships are complex, and while these signs strongly suggest infidelity, there are always alternative explanations. Stress, mental health struggles, or even personal growth can sometimes look like withdrawal. That's why communication is essential. But here's the key. Communication must be honest, respectful, and fearless. If you feel these signs resonate, it's time to set aside your fear of confrontation and instead focus on your need for clarity. Ask her about the changes you've noticed, not with accusations, but with openness. Share your feelings of disconnection and ask directly what has shifted. It may be uncomfortable, but silence only prolongs uncertainty. And no matter how painful the truth may be, knowing it is always better than living in a haze of doubt. In the final part of this journey, we'll bring all of these insights together and reflect on what they mean not only for your relationship, but for your personal growth. Because while discovering infidelity can be devastating, it can also be a catalyst for transformation, an opportunity to reclaim your self-worth, strengthen your boundaries, and move forward with authenticity. Whether the answer is what you fear or what you hope, you deserve clarity and you deserve peace. So stay with me as we move into the concluding section, where I'll share the most important perspective of all: how to take these signs, process them with wisdom, and use them as a stepping stone toward a more truthful and fulfilling life. As we arrive at this final stage of our journey together, it's time to take a step back and reflect on the larger meaning behind all these signs. Throughout the first two parts, we've walked through the behaviors, the subtle details, and the patterns that can indicate that your partner may be drifting away or even involved with someone else. We've explored absences, emotional distance, secrecy, new hobbies, unexplained happiness, and so many other shifts that, when combined, form a mosaic of change that cannot be ignored. But here's the truth. The purpose of identifying these signs is not to trap yourself in paranoia or to fuel endless suspicion. The real goal is clarity. Clarity about your relationship, clarity about your own feelings, and clarity about the path forward that will serve your well-being and your growth. Because the reality is this: infidelity, if it exists, is not just about betrayal in the physical sense. It is about the erosion of trust, the loss of emotional safety, and the fracture of the bond that once connected two people on the deepest level. And even if all the signs do not point to cheating, they do point to something equally important: that your relationship may be in need of attention, repair, or honest reevaluation. So whether you confirm your fears or discover that her behavior stems from other struggles, the awareness you've gained through this exploration gives you the power to act rather than to remain stuck in uncertainty. It's worth pausing here to consider why these changes hurt so deeply. When we commit to someone, we give them more than our time. We give them our trust, our vulnerability, our belief that they will walk beside us with honesty. When that bond is shaken, it can feel like the ground beneath us is shifting. Suddenly, the person we shared everything with feels like a stranger, and the routines and rituals that once brought comfort now carry a hollow weight. This dissonance between what was and what is creates an ache that is hard to put into words. But here's something vital to remember. This ache, as painful as it is also a sign of how deeply you love, how deeply you care, and how committed you were to the relationship. And that in itself is not a weakness, it is a strength. Now, moving forward requires courage, and courage takes different forms depending on what you discover. If, after reflection and honest conversation, you find that she has indeed been unfaithful, you face a crossroads. One path leads toward separation, toward reclaiming your independence and rebuilding a life without the weight of deception. The other path, for some, may lead toward reconciliation. If both partners are willing to take responsibility, rebuild trust, and put in the difficult work of healing. Neither path is easy, and neither path is wrong. What matters most is that the choice is made from a place of truth and self-respect, not fear or denial. If, on the other hand, you discover that the signs stem not from infidelity but from stress, personal struggles, or simple disconnection, then what you have is not a betrayal but a wake-up call. Relationships, like gardens, require constant care. Neglect leads to weeds, and weeds can choke out even the strongest plants. If your partner's distance is a reflection of personal battles, then empathy, patience, and open dialogue can help bring the two of you back into alignment. But this requires effort on both sides, because no matter how much you love, you cannot carry a relationship alone. This is where the true wisdom lies. The signs are not just signals of possible betrayal, they are opportunities for reflection on the health of your relationship as a whole. They ask you to look honestly at whether your needs are being met, whether your partner is truly invested, and whether the relationship is giving both of you the connection and joy you deserve. Too often we ignore our intuition, dismiss our dissatisfaction, or silence our own needs because we are afraid of rocking the boat. But in doing so, we lose ourselves. And losing yourself in a relationship is far more damaging than facing the truth about someone else's actions. It's also important to acknowledge that even in the face of betrayal, healing is possible. Not necessarily healing the relationship, but healing yourself. Pain has a way of shaping us, of teaching us what we will accept, what we value, and what boundaries we must set moving forward. Many people who have walked through the storm of infidelity come out stronger, wiser, and more attuned to their worth. They learn to listen to their instincts more closely, to communicate more openly, and to never again settle for less than honesty. If you are in that place of heartbreak, know that the pain you feel now will not last forever. It may leave scars, but those scars will one day serve as reminders of your resilience. Let me share an important perspective. Sometimes, discovering the truth about a partner's infidelity is not the end of your story, but the beginning of a new chapter that finally allows you to live authentically. How many people remain in relationships that no longer serve them, clinging to routine rather than facing the reality that love has faded? How many people silence their instincts, convincing themselves that things are fine, even as the bond deteriorates? To know the truth, even when it hurts, is to free yourself from the prison of doubt. And in that freedom, you can make choices that align with your deepest values. At the same time, for couples who are willing to face the challenge, infidelity does not always mean the death of a relationship. Some partnerships emerge stronger after betrayal, precisely because the crisis forces both individuals to confront what was broken and to rebuild with greater honesty. But this is not for everyone, and it requires immense commitment, transparency, and accountability. If you both choose that path, know that it will be long and difficult, but also potentially transformative. As you reflect on all of this, here's what I want you to hold on to. Your worth is not defined by whether your partner stays faithful. Your value as a person does not diminish because someone else made the choice to deceive. Their actions are a reflection of their integrity, not yours. What defines you is how you respond, with dignity, with honesty, and with the courage to choose a path that honors your needs and your future. So where does this leave us? It leaves us with the understanding that relationships require vigilance, not in the sense of suspicion, but in the sense of care. It means paying attention to the little details, not so you can catch someone in the act, but so you can nurture the bond before it weakens beyond repair. It means listening to your instincts, because those quiet feelings often carry truths that the mind has not yet acknowledged. And above all, it means remembering that your well-being matters. You deserve a relationship where honesty flows freely, where affection is mutual, and where time spent together feels like a choice, not an obligation. If you've followed me through all three parts of this journey, then you've shown a commitment to understanding not just the signs of potential betrayal, but also the deeper lessons about love, trust, and self-respect. That commitment says a lot about who you are. Someone who values growth, someone who seeks wisdom, and someone who refuses to settle for illusions when the truth is within reach. And for that, I want to honor you. Before we close, I encourage you to take a moment to reflect. Which of these signs resonated with you most? Which patterns felt uncomfortably familiar? And more importantly, what do you feel called to do next? Whether your path is to open a conversation, to seek counseling, to evaluate your boundaries, or to step away entirely, know that your choice is valid and that it is yours alone to make. This is more than just a conversation about cheating. It is a conversation about self-awareness, about the courage to face reality, and about the power of living a life rooted in truth. And no matter what happens next in your relationship, you've already taken a step toward that truth simply by seeking to understand. So, as we bring this video to a close, I want to invite you to continue this journey of growth with me. Subscribe if you haven't already, hit that notification bell so you don't miss the upcoming discussions, and share this video with someone you care about. You never know whose life might be touched by a perspective, whose doubt might be eased, or whose heart might be strengthened simply by hearing these words. And if you've made it all the way here, leave me a comment below with the phrase, "I love wisdom," so I'll know you're one of the people who truly values these conversations. Tell me where you're tuning in from. I would love to hear your story and know that we are connected across the miles. Remember, the truth, no matter how painful, is always better than a life lived in uncertainty. And the journey to stronger relationships begins not with suspicion, but with awareness, honesty, and the courage to act. You deserve love that is real, loyalty that is unwavering, and a partner who values you as deeply as you value them. Hold on to that truth and let it guide your every decision moving forward. Thank you for walking this path with me. I'll see you in the next video.